Hi, I'm Andy Schmuckler. Usually I talk about some of the big picture of what's going on in our world and what made our world the way it is. But today I want to talk about something more personal, which gets me to ponder and confront uh, a variety of issues that are pretty much common to all human beings uh, in some form or other. I mean, we all know, at least at some level, from a very early age, that we're not going to live forever. And, there's going to be, if we don't die of something quickly, we're going to die of something slowly. There's a time span, and then once you've lived your time span in terms of aging, you reach the end of the line. I don't know when I knew that for the first time. I think maybe 5 years old. I still don't know it completely, but as I get older, the whole issue of my aging, uh, maybe even more so, the whole issue of aging in general, um, becomes more and more pressing. I mean, one recognizes that changes are taking place over a greater or lesser period of time. And when it comes to changes in the body, there's no way of seeing that these changes are improvements. Uh, it is a process of decline, being over the hill in terms of one's animal body and inherited lifespan. We're not giant tortoises, but we live a lot longer than dogs. And mortality is just a fact of life. That's not anybody's most fun aspect of our situation. But having said that, even though I can see changes and note that they aren't improvements, um, the slope so far of my inevitable decline, there's no escaping what the destination is. The slope has been very gradual and leaves me with pretty much of what I really care about. So I'm not feeling really like an old man in the sense of failing. But who knows how long that's good for? And uh, meanwhile, we have chosen to go live in a retirement community, even though we're both fit enough to live in this beautiful place that we live in the mountains overlooking a valley and the next mountains beyond where the West Virginia line is on the western flank of the Shenandoah Valley, and looking out now with the um, saucer magnolia in bloom, and down below the last of the four magnolias, such magnolias I've got on this property. There's a big quince bush that's in bloom right now, and other things. It's just a beautiful time. And How Green Was My Valley, a great film. But this we're choosing to leave, even though we don't have to. But we know eventually we'll need a more protected environment than this. But why rush it? Well, the answer is that we've spent some time at this retirement home, and we can see that there's something really potentially very wonderful life that's available there. A community of people that I haven't been part of a community of people for a while in a living kind of way. I'm not a joiner. Uh, there's just a lot of people there that I can imagine having meaningful conversations with, shared values, and some of them will become friends, and that's sort of a nice thing to look forward to. And there's also opportunities to create things and to make good things happen, and people have been exercising that kind of creativity. And I can see myself creating certain kinds of events that that might be a contribution to, and fulfilling for me, if it is seen as a contribution. Originally, I had taken the attitude of, well, I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to take a chance. People say you can either be 5 years too early or 5 minutes too late. Like something terrible can happen, and all of a sudden your options are gone. I don't know how true that is, but there is a general agreement that it's good to go to such places while you're still vital enough to be able to carve out the niche in the place that you want to do, and to enjoy what the place has to offer. But I was willing to take a chance that there wouldn't be any 5 minutes too late. That I would reach a point where, after carrying logs down the hill or shoveling snow or something, I just come to the realization I'm too old for this, and then pull the trigger on some retreat to a place where you don't have to do so much tending of the world, and you're not so exposed to, well, what would happen here if we're an hour away from the hospital we would want to get to, or at least 55 minutes. There are, eventually that becomes necessary, but in the meanwhile, I came to feel that for myself, it was an opportunity for growth in a way. I'd never been really in that situation. And I would like to see what I can make of that life, and to grow in the directions that aren't just doing what I've been doing for quite a while, which is making videos like this the last couple of years, but writing stuff for many years. I'll continue to do that, and I'll continue to do this, but maybe I can grow in some way that I wouldn't if I just kept on doing this. So even though I love being here, I think that the better choice in spiritual terms is to plunge into a new good life. There's an obstacle that I also feel that I face, which is one that I've heard from other people that we've talked with. Particularly it seems like the men say, I don't want to go, I don't want to be surrounded by a bunch of old people. So there's the old people about oneself that at some point you have to recognize that you're not as capable as you would want to be under the circumstances that fit you in your prime. But not only that, but you're living surrounded by, in the case of where we're going, a couple thousand people who have been impressive, a lot of them it seems, but who are in the process of falling apart. And there's going to be a friend of ours who lives there talked about so-and-so that we met and liked. He described how when they first moved in, he was doing this much better and she was doing this much better. And it's been hard to watch that they've sort of lost ground, but everybody's losing ground. And how do you feel about that? I'm not one of enlightened people that embraces the sick, the poor, the broken. I respect that, but that's not particularly who I am. And in my life, I've observed the effects of aging on people's attractiveness, for example. I'm a big fan of the movies, and particularly seeing what happens to a woman who is so beautiful in this movie in the 1940s, and then this picture of her so many years later. It brings it brings to mind just how much people lose. What, how am I going to feel when I was a teenager? If I saw somebody with a walker, I would have had certain feelings that were not really conducive to, I'm really glad to be around this. So I haven't entirely outgrown an uneasiness with seeing people in wheelchairs and having walkers, and maybe having conversations with people who are clearly not altogether with it. So that's a challenge that I feel that I face in moving to this area. I'm drawn to take this on. We're both working with some eagerness to get there into that life. But I also recognize that there's a lot of adjustment that's going to have to take place, including dealing with the realities of mortality and aging that set the whole picture. When you see so much of that around you, it becomes harder to deny what I've been somewhat into denying, just as if I'm going to go on forever. And then how to perceive the people around me who are manifesting things that I've habitually, as a young person, saw as unappealing. And what I think is the route that I'm going to take, and I've tried it a bit, and I think I can do it, is that I will focus on the richness that a lot of people develop from having lived a lot of years and having processed it in a way that made them, well, wiser is what you hope for that years will bring, and some people who are good at achieving understanding based on the accumulation of evidence and the accumulation of experience, really do develop some wisdom, and they've got a lifetime of experience that one can explore, and a certain kind of consciousness that is ripe and beautiful. The way an old tree is more beautiful than any young tree can be. So that's my assignment to myself, is to get over the walkers and get into the souls and the minds and the hearts of the people who have used their years well. That's the hope. That's the challenge. My name's Andy Schmuckler. My website, where I don't talk about these kinds of issues much at all, but I do talk about the situation we're in as Americans and as members of the species that created civilization on this planet. It might destroy itself in not so many generations. abetterhumanstory.org. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.